So a few days ago, we got the first live stream development update for Ashes of Creation in 2025. Now, we got about 3 months until we get into phase 3, and I guess the question is, what does 2025 look like for Ashes of Creation? Alright, so starting off, this live stream development update was centered around treasure maps. Steven got with the crew and they went to go find some treasure, right? Not crazy exciting, but something to do nevertheless. They also checked out a few pocket dungeons, which was pretty dope. I think the way things are going to be moving, in my personal opinion, they're probably not going to go as hard with the development updates. Now, this is what we've been seeing these past few months, so I think whenever there is a huge update or a big reveal, then we'll get that big reveal during a stream. For example, we know that we should be seeing the Rogue next month if it doesn't get pushed back, right? So I personally would assume that that live stream development update would be to showcase the Rogue class, or even getting some gameplay with the Rogue. Speaking of the Rogue is being worked on by Bookie. Now, this is the same person who worked on the Bard, and we all know that the Bard is the best class in the video game, so Rogue is possibly going to be second. All jokes aside, you guys know how I feel about the Bard class. It's super fun to play. There's a lot going on. So I think if we can take what makes the Bard class special, take that concept and apply that same exact thought process to a Rogue, then you're gonna have people who are gonna feel the same exact way that I do about the Bard, but just with the Rogue class. I think Intrepid knows that the Rogue class has a cult-like following, so they want to get this right, which is probably why it got pushed back. Knowing how they are, they love to take their time to finesse things and fine-tune things and just get things right for the player base. We then got to talk about the Guild Leader program. Now, this is going to be similar to the Content Creator program, so if you're a Guild Leader, this might be something you want to look into depending on how serious you are about leading a guild. Speaking of guilds, we also got the guild skill tree added into Ashes of Creation. Currently, it takes 100 years to get a level, but that's neither here nor there. And then lastly, the desert got a nice update, which is actually one of the things that I'm most excited for. So I've been talking about this literally for probably years at this point. There was a portion of the live stream where Steven was messing with the settings in the desert and he kicked up the sandstorm. When I say he kicked up the sandstorm, I mean that he changed the effects of the sandstorm to reflect on the world. The sandstorm actually has an effect on your player, moving your player. Now, I have always been intrigued by this with Ashes of Creation. If we go back to the commission showcase, remember where Steven dies by lightning? Going back to the fighter showcase, remember how the goblin huts were able to be destroyed? And I even went as far as to make a video talking about the best Ashes of Creation live stream that we haven't seen yet. And I talked about the dynamic changes that we could see in the world. Now with phase 3 coming up, I know I'm skipping over the entire desert sandstorm, I get it, but my mind can't help but run off and think about the other dynamic changes that we could possibly get. Again, I said this in my past video, once we get naval content, what are the seas going to look like? Are we gonna have storms? Are we gonna have these massive waves? Are we gonna have tsunamis that are, causing wreckages to our ships? What is going to happen? Because I think the game that Ashes of Creation is shaping up to be, it could be possible for some of these things to happen. Now, obviously, I don't think we're gonna have a tsunami pick up our ship and freaking throw it on the ground, right? But I do think that they are going to continue to implement on what is happening here. I think this is really good for immersion, and I think this is really good for world building. Caravans are a huge activity that the player base loves to indulge in, but what do caravans look like in a sandstorm desert, right? What do they look like when you're on the sea transporting your goods? These are the things that we have to take into account. Imagine they get that change and every biome with storms or whatever it may. Think of how immersive that's actually going to be. I don't know, man. I think it's pretty lit. I really do think once the game opens up more, we're gonna see the impact that this actually has. I feel like we're really confined right now in terms of dynamic changes and what this actually does to the world. But once we get to that beta 1, beta 2, even phase 3, like I said, with the C, I think we'll really see that impact a lot more. We also got to hear about the secondary archetypes, which is the augmentation system that we know we're going to be getting in phase 3, starting with the tank and the cleric. So when Steven was talking about this, he reaffirmed that we actually will be getting all of the archetypes eventually, but eventually could be whenever. But the thing about getting secondary archetypes whenever we get them, whether that be sometime in phase 3 or either closer to betas, that is almost a revival of the game. Now, I'm not saying the game's dead, just hear me out with what I'm saying. Right now, we are only playing our base archetypes, our base classes. You could only play Bard, you could only play Tank, you could only play Cleric, so on and so forth. Regardless of your base class, once they launch the augmentation system, your entire class is going to be able to be completely different than what it is now. And maybe I shouldn't say completely different, but there is going to be a difference in how you play that class depending on what augmentation you choose. Do I even think we'll get augmentation in 2025? I'm gonna be honest, man, I'm not too sure. I think it all depends on how phase 3 is running. If they're on schedule, if things are getting pushed back, whatever it may. But if we do see them, one thing I can say for sure is it won't be until late 2025, in my personal opinion. And when I say C augmentation, I mean all of them, not Tank and Cleric, which are already confirmed for phase 3. And of course, throughout the stream, Steven and the crew went around to various pocket dungeons, which I think are really dope. I'm sure these are gonna serve as some pretty good content, but the only concern that I have with them is how long can it be good content for? Obviously, the regular dungeons are massive, so you can spend several days exploring. But with pocket dungeons, obviously it's smaller in scale. So my question is, how long before that gets repetitive? All in all, I think with the way things have been going with Ashes of Creation, clearly we have our ups and downs, but I think we're in a solid spot. As long as they keep continuing to build on what they are doing, we are going to be a-okay. That's just what I think, at least. What are your thoughts? Where do you think Ashes of Creation is gonna go in 2025? Please let your boy know in the comment section below. If you haven't created an Ashes of Creation account yet, which I can't really imagine any of you haven't, because, you know, we're testing the game right now, you can also use my link. If you are looking for a community or a guild to join, I have both of those Discord links down below in the description. All right, hey, I'll talk to you guys soon. Take care.